Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm continuing my holiday series with a segment about Cleavon Little, who played the Reverend Hawthorne Dooley in The Homecoming. I found a number of resources when looking into the background of Cleavon Little, and this is from various different places. From the American Academy of Dramatic Arts website, they said that he was born in Chickasaw, Oklahoma in 1939, that Cleavon Little's journey into acting began once his family moved west to San Diego, California. He attended San Diego City College and then San Diego State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in dramatic arts. He was awarded a full scholarship to Juilliard for his graduate studies in classical theater with an emphasis on Shakespeare. Little then continued his training at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, graduating in the class of 1967. So I had no idea he had all that classical training and that he had done Shakespeare and many of the classics over his time. Predominantly on stage, he did those classics and stuff, but how wonderful that he had that kind of a background and training. In the African American Registry, it said, he graduated from San Diego State College in 1965 with a degree in speech therapy and appeared in A Raisin in the Sun in 1962 at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego. He worked as a janitor throughout college and gave presentations on Black poetry to clubs and groups. He won a scholarship from the American Broadcasting Company to attend the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, and he was named the best actor in the class of 1967. An LA Times article by Bert A. Folkart on October 23, 1992, reporting on the death of Cleavon Little said, he portrayed a submissive octogenarian in I'm Not Rappaport. He won a Tony Award for the title role in the Broadway musical Pearly. He also won a Drama Desk Award for the same role. Now, a Drama Desk Award is one that is among the most esteemed honors in New York theater, recognizing outstanding achievements across Broadway, off-Broadway, and off-Broadway productions within the same categories. Established in 1955, the awards are presented annually by the Drama Desk Organization, a collective of New York City-based theater critics, journalists, editors, and publishers dedicated to celebrating excellence in the performing arts. The awards are often referred to as the Golden Globes of theater and are considered a significant American theater honor. And then for that role also in Pearly, he was awarded the Theater World Award. And that is an American honor presented annually to actors and actresses in recognition of an outstanding New York City stage debut performance either on Broadway or off-Broadway. I had no idea at the time that I worked with Cleavon in 1971 in The Homecoming and was so enamored of that little scene he did with Richard Thomas's John Boy and the two Baldwin sisters when he was singing Throw Out the Lifeline. And I thought, what a wonderful voice he has. I had no idea that he actually had done musicals in his past. So getting to find out all of his background and skill set was just so cool to me. The LA Times also said, but to millions, he will always be Bart, the puckish black sheriff who kept a swarm of greedy rednecks at bay in Blazing Saddles. IMDb said in 1974 he was cast as Sheriff Bart in Brooks's comedy western Blazing Saddles. After the studio rejected Richard Pryor, who co-wrote the script, studio executives were apparently concerned about Pryor's reliability given his reputation for drug use and unpredictable behavior, and thought Little would be a safer choice. This role earned him a nomination for the BAFTA Award for Most Promising Newcomer to Leading Film Roles. In that same LA Times article, it said producer-comedian Mel Brooks once called Little the most cooperative actor I ever worked with. Brooks said shortly after Little's death that he even insisted on doing his own stunts, recalling that one involved being buried to his neck in mud. In 1988, Little, who trained at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, won a Guest Actor Emmy for an appearance in Hirsch's Dear John comedy series. And the African American Registry said that in 1975 on Broadway, he played the role of Lewis in All Over Town under the direction of Dustin Hoffman. Then he was 53. He died of colon cancer at his Sherman Oaks home. And the African American Registry said he was posthumously honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on February 1st, 1994, for his contribution to motion pictures. The Cleavon Little Scholarship, which helps non-white students, was created at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts through a campaign led by Little's fellow alumni and co-star Judge Hirsch. Although his life was cut way too short, he still managed to accumulate quite a list of credits over that career. In film, he did the movies Vanishing Point, Greased Lightning, Double Exposure, Fletch Lives with Chevy Chase, and of course our very own David Harper was in the first movie Fletch with Chevy Chase. Cleavon was also in Once Bitten with Jim Carrey and Lauren Hutton, High Risk with Anthony Quinn, Ernest Borgnine, James Coburn, James Brolin, and Lindsay Wagner. And of course, the film for which we probably most remember him, Blazing Saddles. I remember going to the movies to see that. And though I thought parts of it, for me, were over the top, it was just such a thrill to see the success that Cleavon was having with that film and how it brought him to such broad recognition by so many viewers, and how beloved he became for this body of work, and that film being a real highlight of it. He was terrific in it. He could do drama, he could do comedy, he could sing, he could do classics. I mean, the man was just so multi-talented. He also had a ton of TV credits, including The Felony Squad, All in the Family, Mod Squad, New Temperatures Rising show, for which he did 46 episodes as Dr. Jerry Noland, 227 with our very own Hal Williams, Police Story, The Rookies, The Rockford Files, The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Simon and Simon, The Fall Guy, Alf, Baghdad Cafe, he did 12 episodes as Sal, MacGyver, Tales from the Crypt, and he did something called One of the Boys with Nathan Lane and Mickey Rooney. So he certainly had an opportunity to work with a lot of the prominent actors of that era. On the Waltons, of course, he was in the season 4 episode The Fighter, where he played Reverend James Trevis Clark. And he comes to Waltons Mountain because he's trying to raise money to have a congregation, a church of his own for the people back in his community. And he gets an opportunity to have this fight, which is then rigged. John Boy is his corner man, and John helps him out. So it was just the Waltons embraced him. And although Olivia and Grandma and Verdi do not believe that he should be fighting and that boxing is something that they can approve of, they do get behind his reasons for doing it, and the fact that he goes through with it and gets seriously injured. But together, the whole community builds the beginnings of a church for him. And in the final scenes, we see him giving his very first sermon in this church that is being just loosely framed. But we have that opportunity to see Cleavon once again in the role of a minister and speaking his truth from the gospel. Then there's the homecoming, which is what we're talking about here in terms of my look back at actors who were in the homecoming. And the character of Reverend Hawthorne Dooley in the homecoming reappeared very early in the Waltons. There was another actor who came in and played Hawthorne for 1 or 2 episodes, and then for whatever reason they chose not to continue that character. It would have been interesting to know if Cleavon had been available to do that, whether they would have continued the character as a recurring part of the community. My favorite scene was, I think, that one in the Baldwin's house when they come by and they're hoping that they might be able to get some gas from their papa's car to continue the search for John Boy's search for his daddy. And they come in and they are served the recipe and they sing and they sway around and then we get to hear his wonderful voice leading throughout the lifeline, and then his classic line when he stops laughing and says,
Miss Emily, Miss Mamie, we got to have some gas.
I just always cracks me up every time I see it. But it was very evident, his rich, deep, resonating voice, both when he sang and when we saw him in his church with his congregation as they are doing the nativity play, and then when he is preaching, and just I can imagine him on stage resonating to a large 3-balconied theater. He just had those tones that resonated and projected. So I wasn't really surprised to hear that he had this classical training and this background in theater. It all made sense then, but I didn't know it at the time. I just admired that, loved the sound of his voice, and I just thought he was so magnetic, both on and off screen. I thought he commanded the screen when he was on camera, and that he commanded the space in person. He was, to me, always larger than life in his presence and just someone that I wanted to be around. He drew you to him. He just was he had such a warmth to him, and he had a great sense of humor. He was funny, and he was just a joy to be around. And I am so honored to have had a chance to know him. And I always thought very highly of him and with warm, wonderful memories whenever I see him on screen or hear his name or have an opportunity to reflect back, and particularly anytime I watch The Homecoming. I hope you have enjoyed this brief look at the life and career of Cleavon Little, who played Hawthorne Dooley in The Homecoming. If you have enjoyed this, please do hit like and subscribe. And I hope you'll join me next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more of your questions with Ask Judy, and more of my holiday series. I hope you're enjoying your holiday season also. Thanks for watching.